Stephen Paul Jobs, known as Steve Jobs and as the co-founder and former CEO of Apple Incorporated, left an enduring legacy that continues to shape the world of technology and beyond. His visionary leadership, relentless pursuit of perfection, and commitment to innovation have made a profound impact on the way we live, work, and communicate. Jobs' influence extends far beyond the products and services he helped create, as his ideas and philosophies have inspired countless individuals and transformed entire industries. From transforming personal computers and mobile devices to redefining the retail experience, Steve's legacy stands as a testimony to the power of creativity, ingenuity, and unwavering determination. In this video, we'll dive into the remarkable biography, influential career, and the ups and downs of this inspiring entrepreneur, highlighting the key aspects that contribute to his enduring legacy. The early life and education of Steve Jobs. Stephen Paul Jobs was born on February 24, 1955 in San Francisco, California, to Joanne Scheibel and Abdul Fattah Jandali. However, shortly after his birth, he was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs. He grew up with one sister, Patty. Paul Jobs was a machinist and fixed cars as an avocation. Steve remembers his adopted dad as being extremely proficient at working with his hands, who raised him in Mountain View, California. Steve lived with his adoptive family within the region that would later become known as Silicon Valley. He exhibited an early interest in electronics and technology, tinkering with gadgets and machines, and was inquisitive from childhood, occasionally to his disadvantage. According to the BBC's Science Focus magazine, Jobs was taken to the emergency room twice as a toddler. Once, after sticking a pin into an electrical socket and burning his hand, and another time because he had ingested poison. His mother, Clara, had taught him to read by the time he started kindergarten. As a boy, Steve and his dad worked on electronics in the family garage. Paul demonstrated to his son how to take apart and rebuild electronics, a hobby that imbued confidence, perseverance, and mechanical dexterity in young Jobs. Although Steve was always a clever thinker, his adolescence was riddled with frustrations over traditional schooling. He was a prankster in primary school due to boredom, and his fourth-grade teacher needed to bribe him to study. Jobs tested so competently, nevertheless, that administrators wanted to bypass him ahead to high school, a suggestion that his parents refused. While following Homestead High School, Jobs entered the Explorers Club at Hewlett-Packard. It was in the club that he saw a computer for the first time. He picked up summer employment with HP after calling the corporation's co-founder, Bill Hewlett, to inquire about parts for a frequency counter he was constructing. It was at HP that the teenage Steve Jobs met his future co-founder of Apple Computer, Steve Wozniak, who at the time was attending the University of California, Berkeley. After graduating from high school, Jobs attended Reed College in Portland, Oregon, where he lacked direction and withdrew from college after 6 months, and spent the following year and a half dropping in on creative classes at the school. Steve later narrated how one course in calligraphy developed his love of typography and influenced his design sensibilities. In 1974, young Jobs picked up a role as a video game designer with Atari. Many months later, he left the firm to find spiritual enlightenment in India, going further and experimenting with psychedelic drugs. Steve's establishment and leaving of Apple Computer Incorporated. In 1976, at the age of 21, Jobs and Wozniak started Apple Computer Incorporated in the Jobs family garage. Steve traded his Volkswagen bus and Wozniak his dear scientific calculator to fund their entrepreneurial enterprise. Across the computer industry, the men are credited with transforming the industry by standardizing technology and making machines smaller, inexpensive, instinctive, and obtainable to everyday shoppers. Wozniak developed a sequel of user-friendly personal computers, and with Jobs in charge of marketing Apple, he initially marketed the computers for $666.66 each. Apple I earned the company approximately $774,000. 3 years later, they released Apple's second prototype, the Apple II, and the company's sales rose exponentially to $139 million. In 1980, Apple Computer became a publicly traded firm, with a market value of $1.2 billion by the conclusion of its first day of trading. Nevertheless, the next several products from Apple suffered substantial design shortcomings, resulting in recollections and consumer disappointment. Apple was unexpectedly exceeded by IBM in sales and had to compete with an IBM PC-dominated business world. After this setback, Jobs looked to marketing specialist John Sculley of Pepsi-Cola to take over the role of Chief Executive Officer of Apple in 1983. The following year, Apple released the Macintosh, marketing the computer as a portion of a counterculture lifestyle, utopian, youthful, and innovative. But despite favorable sales and performance exceptional to IBM's PCs, the Macintosh was still not IBM compatible. Sculley was convinced Jobs was hurting Apple, and the corporation's executives started to phase him out. Not having an official title with the company he co-founded, Jobs was shoved into a more marginalized role and eventually walked out of Apple in 1985, developing Next and his ticket back to Apple. After his departure from Apple, Steve Jobs personally invested $12 million to start a new hardware and software business called Next Incorporated. The corporation brought up its first computer in 1988, with Jobs hoping it would appeal to universities and experimenters. But with a base price of $6,500, the device was way out of the spectrum of most prospective buyers. The corporation's operating system, Next Step, managed better, with programmers using it to develop video games like Quake and Doom. Tim Berners-Lee, widely known as one of the founders of the World Wide Web, used a Next computer. However, the company toiled to appeal to mainstream America, and Apple finally bought the firm in 1996 for $429 million. Next in itself wasn't special and did not have any commercial success, but the technology used played a crucial role in Apple's future. It was also this short but impactful existence of Next that helped Steve in his personal career, because with this acquisition of Next, Steve Jobs also returned to Apple, eventually taking back his role as the CEO. After this important moment, he took the wheel and led the organization on a roadmap to become one of the biggest technology giants of these days. Steve and his influence on Pixar. It was in 1986 that Steve bought an animation company from George Lucas, which eventually became Pixar Animation Studios. Because he believed in Pixar's potential, Jobs initially invested $50 million of his cash in the company. As of this moment, Steve believed that Pixar was destined for greatness in the industry of hardware, instead of digitally animated films. Luckily, the two co-founders, Ed Catmull and John Lasseter, shared their own production dream, which quickly led to the creation of a vision and roadmap to change the world of animation and animated movies. After a successful start with shorts like Luxo Jr. and Red's Dream, the studio proceeded to produce incredibly popular movies such as Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles. Pixar integrated with Disney in 2006, which earned Jobs the title of largest shareholder of Disney. After becoming part of Disney, Pixar continued with releasing successful movies like Cars, Up, Brave, and Inside Out. In that same year, Jobs accepted an honorary Oscar for his contribution and impact on the world of animation with Pixar. This is yet another example of his unlimited belief in technology and the combination with the creation of art. Pixar films, as of June 2022, had collectively grossed $14.7 billion at the international box office, and it's still growing with many more animated movies in the making. With Pixar, Steve, Ed, and John focused on high standards for their movies, resulting in some of the most compelling animations produced. They emphasize storytelling and character development, causing their viewers to connect more easily and create an emotional bond with their characters, ultimately creating an immersive experience. And with an investment in the newest technology, Pixar was able to not only keep up with, but stay ahead of the competition. Steve and his companions kept pushing technological boundaries, creating stunning and groundbreaking visual effects. These technological boundaries that were pushed opened up the possibilities for Pixar to focus on details that would not have been possible without Steve's vision, continuously pushing these boundaries. The return and reinvention of Apple computers. In 1997, Steve Jobs was asked to return as Apple's CEO. And just as Jobs initiated Apple's success in the 1970s, he is credited with reviving the company in the 1990s. With a new management crew, revised stock choices, and self-imposed annual earnings of $1 a year, Steve Jobs successfully set Apple back on track. Jobs' innovative products, like the iMac, adequate branding campaigns, and fashionable designs caught the attention of buyers once again. In the following years, Apple introduced cutting-edge products like the MacBook Air, iPod, and iPhone, all of which showcased Apple's ideas on the evolution of technology. Nearly immediately after Apple Computers released a new product, competitors shuffled to produce similar technologies. To mark its extended product offerings, the corporation officially rebranded as Apple Incorporated in 2007. Apple's quarterly announcements enhanced immensely that year. Stocks were worth $199.99 a share, a record-breaking digit at that time, and the company showed off a staggering $1.58 billion gain, an $18 billion excess in the bank, and zero deficit. Fueled by iTunes and iPod sales in 2008, Apple became the second biggest music vendor in America, only behind Walmart. Apple has also been rated #1 on Fortune's list of America's most admired companies, as well as #1 among Fortune 500 companies for returns to shareholders. Apple has released dozens of renditions of the iPhone since its 2007 debut. In February 2023, an unwrapped first-generation iPhone sold at auction for more than $63,000. Steve's private life. Steve Jobs lived a complex life. As a serial entrepreneur, he fully understood the market worldwide and knew how to raise the bar in the technical industry time after time, asking a lot when it comes to his own time. However, Steve got married in 1991 to Lorene Powell, and they had 3 children. Reed, born on September 22, 1991, Aaron, born on August 19, 1995, and Eve, born on July 9, 1998. The relationship between Steve and Lorene and his role as a husband and father can be best described as one full of love and intimacy. However, his dedication to work also had an effect on his family. Still, it was Steve's love for his family that kept him going, and everywhere he worked, Jobs only wanted the best for his wife and children, including shielding them from the public spotlight. Inspired by his dedication to pursue his passion, Lauren and the kids are pursuing their own passions and striving to make a positive impact on the world we live in. Steve's achievements and impact. On October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs died of pancreatic cancer, and he left one of the world's most astonishing legacies in the world of technology we have ever seen. A veteran technology journalist and writer, Doc Searles, once said the following: "You know, he changed retailing, he changed computing, he changed networking, he changed everything he meant to change," which is kind of an amazing thing. Jobs and Wozniak transformed the computer industry with their idea of personal computers, encouraging everyone to have their own and be able to be a part of the technological revolution not only Apple, but other brands as well were developing. Both Steve and Wozniak are credited with the idea of creating technology and making Apple's products smaller, more efficient, and available to everybody. Even today, Steve Jobs' legacy continues to impact the world. He altered the way we use technology these days. He has made mobile devices more effective, yet easier to use. Jobs also developed and modified the look and feel of technology, making it more refined and fashionable to own the latest tech, inspiring and motivating other companies to do the same. Apple wasn't always the first with technological innovations, but that never stopped Steve Jobs from showcasing their new products as technology-changing milestones. With a continuously growing fan base worldwide, which only increased enormously since the release of the first successful touchscreen smartphone, Apple kept on innovating, implementing technology like the fingerprint unlock characteristic and facial recognition. Combined with its sleek design, Steve Jobs changed the way we communicate and how we utilize our smartphones. Also transforming the music industry with the iPod product and its software, iTunes, Apple altered how we download and listen to music. However, in his vision, Steve never saw iTunes as a platform for music only. Instead, he wanted to create an application that acts as a media player while also functioning as your local media library, and ultimately a mobile device manager. The combination of these functionalities in one application was the extension of Jobs' vision. When Steve brought in the idea of personal computers, the idea of having an affordable piece of technology was uncommon and never thought of in the early years of the technical revolution. He wanted to build a computer functional not just for businesses and large companies, but for everyone, every household. And when Jobs created the Apple II and the Macintosh, he built a personal computer that lived up to its name, personal. Anyone was able to purchase one of Apple's computers without the need of owning a business or being part of a company. Summarizing his legacy, Steve Jobs transformed the industry of technology, from smartphones to computers and music. He altered their peaks, how they operated, inspired other companies around the world, big and small, to innovate on their products as well. With Pixar, he created a different way to create movies. His funding and never-ending work with the company made an enormous impact on kids and families. People have grown up with many of his films and grown to love them as their childhood memories. Just like the products from Apple, Steve Jobs and his work stand for quality and an immersive experience for their users. His name and leadership. To establish his enormous Apple company, Jobs had to have powerful leadership skills. And even though he was tough on his employees, he meant well. Jobs stated, "My job is not to be easy on people. My job is to make them better." Every action he took was for his employees, his products, and the company to be able to attain greatness. Steve Jobs also had a strong, obvious vision, and anyone who did not share in his vision could be sacked on the spot. He had a passion for his products and wanted them to serve an objective and have an influence on people's lives. Steve was constantly striving for perfection in his work and would do anything to achieve that objective. He also went above and beyond and inspired others to do so as well. Each time he developed a new product, he would stake everything and add qualities no one would ever think of. Jobs ushered his workers and everyone around the globe to attain greatness and perfection, risk failure to serve a purpose, and pursue their dreams and passion. The New York Times documented that in his last weeks, Jobs had become so fragile that he struggled to hike up the stairs in his home. He was able to say goodbye to some of his longtime colleagues, including Disney CEO Bob Iger, speak with his biographer, and offer guidance to Apple executives about the revealing of the iPhone 4S. Millions around the globe mourned his death. Even today, Steve is remembered for his astounding creations that encouraged everyone to be a part of his legacy and transformation, and will be known for his work and masterworks that have enhanced the lives and motivated everyone to be able to attain greatness in life. He was a visionary leader, crammed with ambition and vigor. Steve Jobs changed the entire world with Apple, Pixar, Next, and his contributions to the Walt Disney Company, becoming a source of motivation to millions. Death and last words. In a eulogy for Steve Jobs, his biological sister, Mona Simpson, wrote that just before dying, Steve looked for a long time at his other sister, Patty, then his wife and kids, past them, and said his last words, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow." On October 16th, a memorial for Steve Jobs was held on the campus of Stanford University for Jobs' family and friends. Noteworthy attendees included Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, singer Joan Baez, who once dated Jobs, former Vice President Al Gore, actor Tim Allen, and News Corporation director Rupert Murdoch. Jobs was laid to rest in an unmarked grave at Alta Mesa Memorial Park in Palo Alto. Upon the release of the 2015 film Steve Jobs, fans journeyed to the graveyard to find the site. Because the cemetery was not authorized to disclose the grave's location, many left messages for Steve Jobs in a memorial book instead. Steve Jobs approached author and journalist Walter Isaacson to write his official biography. They sat for more than 40 discussions, and Isaacson also spoke to more than 100 of Jobs' family, friends, and associates. Originally planned for a November 2011 release date of the movies and books permitted before his death, the book hit the shelves on October 24th, just 19 days after Jobs passed away. Steve's life has also been the subject of two major films. The first, released in 2013, was titled Jobs and starred Ashton Kutcher. Steve Wozniak was approached to work on the movie, but couldn't do it. His reasoning was, "I read the script as far as I could swallow it and felt it was crap." And although he applauded the casting, Steve told Gizmodo he felt his and Jobs' characters were incorrectly portrayed. Rather, Wozniak worked with Sony Pictures on the second movie, Steve Jobs, which was an adaptation from Isaacson's biography and released in 2015. It starred Michael Fassbender as Jobs and Seth Rogen as Wozniak. Fassbender was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor, and co-star Kate Winslet was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her part as Apple and Next marketing executive Joanna Hoffman. Filmmaker Alex Gibney analyzed Jobs' life and legacy in the documentary Steve Jobs, The Man in the Machine in 2015. We can safely say that Steve Jobs left an immeasurable mark on technology, innovation, design, and entertainment. Being a visionary entrepreneur, always pursuing excellence and combining this with elegant design, he set the standards in technology. If there's one thing we could learn from Steve, then it would be to keep pushing boundaries, embrace failures, and challenge the status quo.